Hello and welcome back to the NUFC Opinion Blog for another edition of the Thursday Team Talk podcast. Things are actually suddenly going all right in the world of Newcastle. You know, we said we'd come to the next one of these and would see how things were, and suddenly things are all right. I mean, we've had this. This is not to suggest that the whole season's been brilliant, because it hasn't, and there's no way we should ever try and make that to be the case. But in the last 4 games, we've drawn twice and won twice, and have pretty much alleviated ourselves from immediate danger. Fulham 9 points behind with only 5 games to go. So we're not actually going to mention Fulham, because we think that at the minute we're going to focus on the teams that are around Newcastle, including the likes of Burnley, Brighton and Southampton, etc. So Ben, as usual, we'll start with Newcastle's fixture, which is on Sunday, 2 o'clock at St James's Park against Arsenal. Your thoughts?
Well, Arsenal always seem to pull out a good result against us, don't they? You know, they've had some pretty major ones. I think the last two have been 3-0 and 4-0 in Arsenal's favour. It doesn't make for pretty reading, and I don't know why, but Arsenal always seem to pick up a good result against us, and there seem to be quite a few high-scoring games. But as we know, Arsenal aren't on the best of form at the minute, are they? They're a bit.
They're very
hit
hit and miss. Arsenal. They have been all season.
That's it. I mean, obviously they beat Sheffield comfortably, didn't they? But then they've drawn against Fulham. Obviously, they lost last week to Everton as well.
Yeah.
So they've had some. You know, they've had they've had a good result, and they've had just the equally as bad result.
They've just been very inconsistent, and that's what's contributed to sort of their league position. They're not very super, to put it one way.
Yeah, definitely.
In terms of what they're really trying to pull off in that terms of Super League, they're not very super at all at the moment. They're sort of sitting, drifting around that sort of 11th, 10th, 9th place, as very much the mid-table. And with that, you could argue that, considering we're playing really well, I thought that against Liverpool we deserved the point. Certainly,
I thought so, definitely. Yeah.
Game. Arsenal are not as good as Liverpool. We go into that with some confidence. Certainly, we could even pick up a win if.
Yeah, I mean, you know, last weekend, back to the West Ham game, I thought a point was the best we'd hope for. Liverpool game, I didn't really expect much. So, you know, once again, we've kind of picked up better results than probably what we anticipated. And, you know, as a result, it puts us in a good mood, doesn't it? And a good bit of confidence. Massively. So I wouldn't put it past us once again to pick up something. But it just depends which Arsenal turn up, to be honest.
Massively so, and which Newcastle, because if we can continue the way we've been playing, especially, you know, with the form that St. Maximan's in, Wilson now getting back to nearly full fitness as well. So,
but then I think, well, why should Steve Bruce change what looks like at the minute isn't broken?
I think that, to be fair, Joe Linton wasn't brilliant against Liverpool.
No, he wasn't, and fair enough, that was the case. Like, I'm not saying.
I think that's. I'd make that change. I'd put Wilson back in now for Joe Linton, and then.
Yeah, obviously you've got to make single individual changes, but.
Oh yeah, like on a generalised level.
What's the point in changing the system when
I agree.
At wing back, I think Murphy has been absolutely fantastic.
He's been brilliant.
I would argue, probably other than St. Maximin, he's been a standout player this past month.
And Joe Willock, you've got to probably put in there as well.
Joe Willock, I don't know what Joe Willock deserves to get it started, to be honest.
Well, he can't start against Arsenal, of course.
No, of course, but I think, to be honest, against when you look at like the likes of Liverpool and Tottenham, for example, obviously the games he scored in, they were teams where I feel Willock is more of an attacking player than a defensive player. So we do need a bit of defensive.
He's very box to box, isn't he? So he can pick the ball up within his own half, and it's not that he's going to use much skill necessarily to try and beat players, but just strength and pace.
I mean, even what sort of shocked me was, if you know, the few of he's such a good all round player. Like even his headings, is good. And for like a skinny little midfielder, you don't always expect that, do you? But
no, I agree. That's the thing. Of course, he scored a headed winner against West Ham, and he makes those runs into the box, which is what we've been missing from a midfielder, because certainly nothing that Shelby or Longstaff have been doing of late at all.
No. So, however, in respect to Shelby and Longstaff, they have done better the past few
They've been
weeks.
better. I mean, I wouldn't say they've been world beaters, and I think Willock's outshone the
Not
pair of
at
them,
all.
but they have
But
been better than they
at the
were.
same time, if the confidence in the team's high, then players like that are always going to, if the whole team plays better, generally individuals play better as well.
I should imagine that both of them start on Sunday, considering that Willock has no chance of stopping because, of course, he's playing against his parent club. So I imagine that will be unchanged. I'd imagine that the majority of the team will be unchanged, as you say. Maybe Wilson will come back in now. Joelinton.
I would like to see that change. Obviously, Joelinton he's bagged a few goals, but he could have had more.
He should have scored in Liverpool when he went through. He should have scored.
Yeah, definitely, but at the end of the day, we got back in the game, got the point which was deserved, and I don't really think that was a harsh result. But when you look against Arsenal as well, what you've got to remember is obviously Thursday night they'll be playing in the Europa League.
Yeah.
So the question is, will their attention be on that more than Sunday's fixture? That could be something to play in.
You'd imagine so.
I would certainly think that a semi-final of the Europa League is probably more important than one game, given that their current position in the league doesn't really.
They're not going anywhere. They're not going to.
Yeah, no, exactly.
That's the thing, because especially considering that they might not even qualify for Europe again.
That this is the Europa League is their best chance
of qualifying for
doing it again.
Exactly. That's the thing, because if did they get into the Champions League if they win the Europa League? Is that?
I believe, if I'm not mistaken, is it not the qualifying round?
Well, yes, as in yes, they'll get into that, yeah.
But that's beyond our domain, like.
Because as far as the way they're going, doesn't seem as if they're going to even get into the Europa League spaces at this rate.
But that certainly something that might play into Newcastle's hands this weekend. I would
certainly would, yeah. And I mean, we're not mentioning Fulham tonight because we're pretty sure that we are going to be safe because of the 9-point buffer. That means that Fulham would have to win 3 of their remaining 5 fixtures against some. They've got some games that are winnable for them, but also games against Chelsea, Man United, which you'd think that probably won't be so much. And of course, the playoffs on the final day of the season. And considering Fulham, I think have only won 5 games all season. The fact that they'd win 3 of their last 5 seems unlikely to me.
It does, doesn't it? And then that's what's been such a saviour for us. These few wins and draws we've picked up. It's just been so beneficial, and it puts so much pressure on the likes of Fulham, who they might not play as freely if they're under so much pressure.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that's really been taking the pressure off us a little bit and eased the minds a little bit, hasn't it?
I fully agree. Yeah, I mean, Fulham could have dumped us into the relegation zone a couple of times, but didn't, and then we've punished them for that. And fair play to Newcastle, because since that horror show at Brighton, we've managed to turn things around and actually, some sort of practically ensure our safety. I think that point against Liverpool pretty much does it. I think if we get anything against Arsenal, there is no way Fulham are going to get anywhere close to us.
Certainly. I would think so.
Yeah. I'll just check. Fulham are away to Chelsea this weekend, so you'd imagine that that's going to be a loss, considering how well Chelsea played against Real Madrid last night. I know they might be a bit tired off that, but Chelsea playing some good football at the moment.
But then it's I understand that they're flying and stuff, but it is they have had plenty rest. Sort of a good few rest days between that, and obviously it's a home fixture for Chelsea as well, isn't it?
It is, yes, it is.
In their hands too.
On Friday night, of course, a team around us, Southampton, who I think have they played a game less? They have, yes. And all the teams around them, they're on 32. So they play on Friday night against Leicester at St Mary's. Leicester, of course, competing for those Champions League spots and doing very well at it at the moment as well. So Southampton, again, have been a bit hit-miss. I think they had a great start to the season. We're up amongst the sort of upper reaches of the table, and then dropped off, had another 9-0 loss, as they did last season, and then now are just sort of a bit mixed. And with Leicester playing for those Champions League spaces, you'd imagine that this is a game that Leicester will be, looking at the table to try and keep them ahead of Chelsea. Because they're 4 points ahead of Chelsea. If they lose and Chelsea win, so that gap goes to 1. And then of course West Ham just sneaking in behind them as well. So you'd imagine that Leicester will be going into this desperate for the win to try and cement their place in that top four. And Southampton, game less than us, same points as us, pretty much definitely safe considering they've played a game less as well. So are their heads in the right place? Are they on the beach maybe? Who knows? Certainly Leicester won't be considering what they're playing for. So you could argue that Leicester are going to go into that game probably, well, I mean, they are the favourites, of course, because of where they're on the table, but probably more wanting the win than Southampton do, if anything.
I mean, I think the thing for me, there's a few points which I've thought about for this game is that obviously Leicester, that until recently they were in a bit of they seem to be on a little bit of a slide, if you like. The defeats to Man City and West Ham, albeit they were good sides. It was two off the bat, but since then, wins against West Brom and Palace in the league, and of course Southampton in the cup.
So then they're playing the final semi-final opponents again, of course.
Exactly, and that's something that I think is quite important. That given that they've just played each other, only a week or so earlier, and Leicester came out on top, maybe that does sort of set the tone for what this game is going to be like. Although it wasn't the most high-scoring game.
No, it was only 1-0, but
got the win, and and obviously they'll be on a bit of a high, going through the FA Cup final. That's a confidence booster.
Yeah.
If anything is so.
No, you're certainly right there.
Of course, I mean, to be honest, I thought Southampton might have been one of those teams that were starting to get sucked in, to the relegation fight.
Yeah,
although they
we
were
did
quite
discuss
far
this
away.
a couple of weeks ago, I think.
But then the win against Burnley that they had, I think that's once again put them just safe. But there was definitely the potential for them to sort of slip away. And they haven't had the best results.
No, they haven't. As I mentioned, they've been a bit hit miss, a bit like Arsenal this season, but obviously not quite as good. But they've got the potential to hurt teams, especially with a striker like Danny Ings. Of course, he's a very good striker.
It. On paper, they've got a really good team. You look like Ward Prowse, another one.
Yeah,
who you could argue is a really dangerous player. Obviously, Danny Ings, as you mentioned, but it's players like Danny Ings who have had a bit of an injury hit season once again. Being in and out the side, which has I think probably resulted in Southampton.
It's probably hampered them. Yeah,
it's a bit like us and St. Maximin. When he's played, we've done well, and maybe if he'd been fit for the full
showed
season
as well. Yes,
maybe if he had been fit for the full season, we might be a lot higher than what we are. But,
I often think St. Maximin's just made of glass at times. Like every time he's brought down, I'm worried he's injured because he stays down at times.
It's getting to the point now where it's starting to really annoy. It's like the game against Liverpool, that challenge that Fabinho put in on him. Towards the end when he was running away, there was literally, if he'd gone past him, there was nobody about, and that's starting to really annoy us now. And I feel teams think that that's probably the only way to stop St. Maximin is to stop him at the source and foul him.
That's you watch Fabinho do that challenge. In no way does he doesn't even glance at the ball. He goes straight for the man. It's so cynical. I know under the letter of the law it is a booking because it's not a goal scoring opportunity yet. He's in his own half, and I think there was another defender on the other side. But it's so cynical, and it's so just it's borderline cheating because it's not an attempt to play the ball whatsoever. It's just an attempt to take out the man. And I know it's taking one for the team, which yes, but it's so cynical and it's so reckless that some people could argue that it warrants a red and that sort of
I think every team's got one of them sort of players who's always willing to just take one for the team, but all the top teams do anyways. But if it's a player for your team, if the rules were reversed and we were Liverpool fans, like you would love him for doing that. But anybody playing against him, it's so frustrating.
It's certainly it's a yellow. There's no question about that.
But of course, yeah.
It's whether it's because of how cynical and how just motivated it was, and in the way in which he did it. Like you could argue a red, but such as the modern game, that's
exactly.
Who knows anything about football rules anymore? To be honest, honestly, I don't.
No, me
Moving
neither.
on to the next game, Brighton Leeds on Saturday, also 3:00 kickoff. Brighton 2 points behind us, of course, so can move above us if they win that. But Leeds got a good draw against Man United at the weekend just gone, and where actually are Leeds in the table right now? Leeds are 9th, so just one place ahead of us. So Leeds will be looking to challenge to how many points? They're 5 points behind Everton. So, but to be fair, have played a game more, but only 6 points behind Tottenham, who've played the same game. So if Leeds get a couple of wins and Tottenham drop one couple, suddenly they're into Europa League's places. So Leeds certainly won't want to be going into that game just thinking, oh, we're on the beach, because there's a chance they get into Europe. It's a slim chance, but then at the same time, Brighton, of course, still could be argued that they're fighting a little bit of a relegation threat, even though they are 7 points clear of Fulham. They'd probably want a win from somewhere to try and just assure that safety.
Yeah, I mean, I think with Brighton it's always that the team that's just above the relegation places are the ones that everyone's like, oh yeah, they're in a relegation scrap. And I think still those 7 points, it's not a million miles away from us. And I think the past few weeks have probably, if I'm being honest, have probably cemented the bottom three. I think now.
I'd imagine so. That's what
I cannot see it changing too much.
I mean, if you look at the Fulham's fixtures, yes, as I mentioned before, there are some winnable games. They play Sheffield United, I think, Fulham, but let's have a look. Fulham, obviously Chelsea at the weekend, and then the weekend after they're at home to Burnley on the Monday night, I should say. That's winnable, but of course Burnley haven't just beaten Wolves 4-0.
They look good, didn't they, as well? And I think there's been quite few good performances around our.
That's the thing. Obviously we went and beat Burnley, but then Burnley have gone and beaten Wolves 4-0. So it's all a bit topsy-turvy.
I mean, there's been quite a few surprise results, and I mean, you look back to the sort of Brighton game. Leeds are in pretty impressive form at the minute. Draws against Man United and Liverpool, but then obviously they beat City, Sheffield United and Fulham.
Yeah, so Leeds on. Yeah, as I say, Leeds can easily probably go to that Brighton match and get 3 points.
I can't see Leeds really pushing on too much from. I think, in my eyes, I think Leeds season's pretty much settled now. They're not really going to go up too much or down. So I think, but for the first season in the Premier League,
very impressive,
fantastic season. And the football they play is really nice, and if they can get that going, then I think that they're a force for a match for any team, really.
As I say, they've gone and beaten Man City, who, at the time of recording tonight, have just gone and beaten PSG with a fantastic performance. So
exactly, yeah,
just shows you. Finally, then we're going to look at Burnley, West Ham. Of course, just mentioned Burnley there, 4-0 victors over Wolves at Molineux the weekend just gone, even though we'd beaten them just before that as well. West Ham, again, fighting for those European places. They're currently sat in 5th, so West Ham will go into that wanting the win, certainly, to try and get back into the top 4, or if not, cement that 5th place in Europa League.
I think most West Ham fans, if you offer them the prospect of
snap your hand off, wouldn't they?
Snap your hand off. But I think the past 2 weeks, the wheels have ever so slightly started to fall off the West Ham wagon. Obviously, to start with, they were still picking up points, a few wins, but
they were shipping all the goals.
A lot.
Yeah,
they're conceding a lot, and obviously that came to bite them when we played them.
Yeah.
The Chelsea game, 1-0 Chelsea. Obviously not the at least in their eyes, the goals sort of stopping at their end, if you like. But still a loss, and obviously that sort of knocked them out of the Champions League places, and it's probably been quite a few weeks of maybe disappointment for West Ham. But
yeah,
I think
especially after that great win against Leicester as well.
Exactly, that's it. But all Burnley have come off a good win against Wolves. I think West Ham probably having too much quality for Burnley in this time around. I
mean, obviously we beat Burnley, but we also beat West Ham.
Well, exactly.
In recent weeks, so it could realistically go either way. But on paper, you'd expect West Ham to have too much quality.
I think they've probably got just a bit much quality, and and Wolves, Burnley, who obviously Burnley played last time out there. This season they aren't the best of sides,
No, but as we've mentioned on a couple of occasions, they get these results somehow.
Exactly.
And
to be honest with you, 4-0 is one of the most unlikely Burnley results I think I've ever seen.
Like score that many, but like they played Chris Wood with the hat trick, and
of course, fair play, and that result probably is like a lot of the teams around us has just put them safe. So
yeah, no, I agree. So yeah, that you imagine West Ham to probably get the win there, but we shall see. That sums things up. Of course, it's a weekend where we can probably go into the game actually and look forward to it a little bit more because of the results we've had recently, and maybe hope that we can actually get something. It's nice, isn't it? It's nice.
Definitely. It's nice to have the pressure off, and just nice to be able to, for all as I think I said last week, it doesn't gloss over the issues of the season.
No.
It's just nice to watch a team that's starting to win a little bit. That the feeling of winning just feels so.
I mean, that draw against Liverpool felt like a win to me. I'm not gonna.
Oh yeah, definitely. And it's just nice to see a team that's playing some all right football, putting the ball in the back of the net, and getting a few results.
Massively. So that's a lovely way in which to end this little podcast. So
indeed,
well done for summing it up in that sense, Ben.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you very much, man.
Right. That, as I say, that does sum things up. So thank you all very much for watching. And how are the lads?